Hey there! Before we get into this video, I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed. I've somehow reached over 130 subscribers, and I'm glad that you all are interested in some of this content that I'm putting out, and hopefully I can continue to meet your expectations. Hopefully they're minimal because your girl has not been consistent. And I know if you're just finding me, you don't really care about all of this little quick intro, but I just wanted to make sure that I showed you how gracious and how grateful I am for each and every one of you. So thank you, and let's just hurry up and hop right on into the video. Bye. Hey there, welcome back to my couch. We are in kind of the corner area of my couch here. And by the way, do you like this view? Did you like it better a little bit more zoomed out? Is just seeing my head and my face and from about here up good for you? Do you prefer to see me sitting entirely on the couch with my legs crossed? Just let me know. I'm trying out different things, different lighting. I'm in some somewhat natural lighting. It's kind of a cruddy-ish day out today. But I wanted to start a series called Learn from My Mistakes. And this is to be completely transparent on all of the mistakes I've made in the past and mistakes I may continue making because I'm still a work in progress, as I hope all of you are as well. But it's sharing some hopefully relatable stories that can help you on your career journey, whatever it may look like. I'm trying to make them as broad as possible so that it can encompass a large range of industries or just jobs in general and interpersonal relationships. And I hope that it's helpful to you. So, of course, sound off in the comments and let me know. My name is Olivia, if I haven't said it yet, and this is the Young Black Professional. So let's get into it. Okay, you have an idea. You think it's an amazing idea. You're ready to get it out there, and you put pen to paper, and maybe you start planning for this idea. And all of a sudden, you start going down rabbit holes thinking of, well, what could go wrong here? Or what happens if this goes really well? Or, oh, I need to do X, Y, Z too. It just gets to be so overwhelming that this once great idea turns into a ball of stress and anxiety, and you don't end up doing anything with it because you're just so anxious about it. And maybe you've told people, maybe you haven't, but now this idea is sitting in a relatively empty notebook or in the deepest corners of your mind. You want to do it well, but the overwhelming thoughts of all of the things you need to do, all of the things that could go wrong, all of the things that could go right, and everywhere in between paralyze you from being able to just get started, just to execute. And if this sounds like you, you're not alone. Maybe you're a perfectionist. And the goal of this series is to learn from my mistakes. And I am most definitely a perfectionist in transition to being less focused on perfectionism. But I'm hoping I can share some stories with you and give you some tips or maybe some coping mechanisms. I'm not a therapist or a psychologist. I'm just a person who is a struggling perfectionist, overthinker, and anxious person. Perfectionism for me and what it looks like in my life is me wanting to do everything to the nth degree, to the highest level. I want to be the ultimate doer of things. And in doing that, I think I really hinder myself, because if I'm not good at something, if not right away, if I can't pick it up fairly quickly, then I tend to shy away from it, because I think I have this idea ingrained in me that I need to be great or the best at whatever it is that I do. And that's not always a good thing. And it's not a good thing because then I never did in the past end up really committing myself to things I wasn't good at, to maybe a point of learning that I could have been amazing in different things. And here's where perfectionism can be a downfall, because you don't want to do things that you're not necessarily good at, and you also get so hung up on so many small details that are infinitesimal to anyone else but major to you, that you kind of self-sabotage, and you end up not progressing and moving as far along as you should have, had you not been so focused on all of the tiny negative things, or all of the minute details that no one else is thinking of. And this isn't to say that you shouldn't be detail oriented, or you shouldn't care about the quality of product or service or whatever it is that you do. You should, but there comes a point where the quality and what your expectations are detrimental to your mental and emotional health. So for me, I always grew up believing that I had to be the best, or that I had to work 10, 12, 15 times harder. And if you're a Black woman or even a Black man, you've probably heard this too, that you need to work 3 or 4 times harder than non-Black counterparts in order to get half of what they get. And you may have also heard this if you are any other minority group, like a Latino, Latina, or if you're an Asian person. Maybe you've heard it too. If so, let me know. I'm really interested. But you get this idea ingrained in you that you have to work and do that much more and be that much better. And that's not always the healthiest way to think. And that's not always the healthiest mindset to have, because you're always trying to outdo somebody. And in the long term, in this space of my life now, I'm seeing that people that were consistent, and not only consistent, but committed, and just really understood the importance of working hard at something, or to understand or to learn and grasp something at their own pace, do better in the long run, because it's something that they might enjoy more that way. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. So in my case, in school, I would always procrastinate. Sometimes it was just genuine laziness. Other times it was kind of being bored from assignments. They didn't really interest me, so I would do things that were more interesting to me and get back to those assignments later. And then more often than not, when it was something I was really interested in or that I wanted to do really well, I would analyze the out of it and think of all of the things that I needed to do. Sometimes I would even list them out, and I would know all the things that I needed to do, and then I would look at that list and get so overwhelmed, and in some cases almost depressed over all of the things that I had to, or that I thought I had to do. And it would make me feel like I couldn't do my best at any of the things on that list that needed to get done. So then I would just kind of lay around and mope, or play video games, or do something that was not any of the things that I knew I needed to be doing, because I was scared. and I was scared that I wouldn't do them well, and I was overwhelmed because it just seemed so big. Everything I needed to do, all of my plans, everything that I was thinking just seemed so huge compared to me, one person. And instead of chipping away at it piece by piece, I thought I needed to get it all done at once. And that was also another destructive thought, because honestly, there are some things that you just cannot do all at once. So I did a lot of projects last minute in high school in particular. I didn't really tell anyone that I was doing them last minute, but that it would be the night before, and I would be up until 2, 3 a.m. trying to finish something. And then it wouldn't even be the best work that it could have been, because it probably could have been much better if I had just started with my list and kind of gone piece by piece. But what happens is I fall into this trap, or I fell into this trap, sometimes I still do, where I think all the things and I get caught caught up in the weight of all the things. And then I don't do any of the things because I'm thinking about all the things. And it just goes into this vicious cycle of me not doing anything because I want to do it to the highest level, but I can't do it to the highest level because it's just so much. And instead of doing piece by piece, or even just doing it, putting it out there and learning from it, I cripple myself and don't learn anything but how to be upset and depressed and worried about something I know I should be doing in the back of my mind while I'm doing something that is absolutely not what I should be doing. So, how do we learn from this? I'm not going to lie, I'm still working on it. It's really difficult for me to break out of those habits that I've been in for almost 30 years now, if you think about it. So, what I'm working on doing, and what I encourage you to work on doing, is, if you are one of those people that makes a list of all the things that need to get done, focus on one or two things. I know this sounds so easy for somebody who is not an overthinker or a perfectionist. This sounds impossibly, stupidly easy. But if you are like me, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you know how hard this is going to be. So pick one or two things that you are going to focus on that day or week or whatever timeline you're working on. So, for example, for me, if it is something I am working on for my business, I will pick one or two things to work on that day, because I mean, there's going to be something to do every single day, but one or two key points to focus on, key things to get done that day, they're going to get done that day. And it doesn't have to look pretty. It won't be perfect, even if it's just a draft of something on that list. I feel better because I know that it's done. And the hardest thing about this isn't necessarily doing it, it's being present and enjoying the process of doing it. But yeah, so pick one or two things, do those one or two things, and see how you feel afterwards. It might not seem like a lot, it might seem kind of silly that it took you so long just to get to do those one or two things, but try and think of it as a learning experience and a retraining experience. So you're retraining your mind to understand that small progress is still progress. And it's also training you to just face your fears and stop thinking and just do. Because the more time you spend, the more time I've spent thinking of something, the further into delusional or what if, or honestly terrible destructive thoughts like, what if I get hit by a car tomorrow? Like, none of this stuff gets done. Or What if I just don't do well at this? What if this video, for example, comes out horribly? I don't know how to edit that well. What if the color grading is off? I don't know how to color grade that well. The more time you spend thinking of all of the things that can go wrong, the less time you're actually using to learn the skill or the trait or whatever it is that you need. So back to my advice, focus on those one or two things and do them. And after you do them, take note of how you feel. I know this is much easier said than done, but it helps to be as present as possible. So I try and focus on the present moment, what's happening right this second, because I have a very wild tendency to focus on the past and to think about the future. So dwelling on the past, I should say, I think of all of the mistakes I've ever made. One mistake I'm thinking of can delve into 12 mistakes that I've made and how I would have been different right now if I hadn't made those mistakes. And then I think, well, what am I going to do in the future? I need to do A, B, C. I need to pass this exam. I need to get an interview with this company. I need to speak to this person. And it just kind of becomes a hamster wheel of never-ending thoughts, and nothing has to do with what you're doing in this moment. So this moment right now that you're watching this video is the moment you should be focusing on. And that's not to tell you you should be focusing on me. That's to tell you you need to be more present. And once you start shifting your mindset to just being present and just doing the darn thing, you can start making improvements and you can start actually getting things done, getting work out there and improving, because let's be honest, very few people innately make great content. Very few people come out the gate with thousands and hundreds of thousands of subscribers and just do amazingly. And to be completely honest, people that do have those innate skills often can't sustain it because maybe they're not working at it. They're not working at it. They won't have the ability to sustain that success or that skill or that trait or what have you. So then, what else can you do to try and combat perfectionism? You need to, now I'm going to contradict myself a bit, but you will need to look at things you've done in the past and things that you've done in the past well, because sometimes the perfectionism is rooted in imposter syndrome too, feeling like you're here, but you're not supposed to be here at this level of success or at this stage of work or in this position, or you're not supposed to have what you have because you don't feel like you've done enough or been enough in order to obtain it. When you start to list out what you've done or accomplished, more so to other people or for other people, I find we're our own worst critics in that I can list out everything and feel like I've done next to nothing with my life, and somebody else can be looking at it in complete awe that I've done all of the things that I've done. So having perspective from somebody else might be key here. Write out everything you've done, everything that you feel is an accomplishment, or even what you don't think is an accomplishment. Allow yourself a moment to brag, and brag about everything. Write it all down. Write it all down, list it all out. Make a voice memo, record it for yourself. Know that you are that one. Know that you've done all those things. You did that. And take ownership of doing that, because it helps change your view on yourself and your work. And I think it's a lot more eye-opening when you share that with someone and somebody else can say, wow, yeah, you did a lot. Or if you need to be humbled, somebody can say, yeah, you did a few things. That's pretty cool, but what are you doing now? I don't think this video is for the people that need to be humbled, but if you need to be humbled, it's a good way to be humbled. And I will give a couple of examples. At work, there had been times where I felt like I should know this already, or that I felt like my coworkers or my managers or whoever I was working with would think I was stupid for not knowing something, or maybe not stupid, but would think that I was incompetent in the role for not knowing that. So then I would spend hours and hours and hours researching something when I probably could have, not hours and hours, I'm exaggerating, but you get the gist. I spent a ridiculous amount of time looking for something or to gain the knowledge on something when I could have asked a question or not really cared what anyone thought of me or my skills, and just been not honest because I wasn't being dishonest, but being upfront and confronting the fact that I didn't have to know it all and I don't have to know it all. And I think being a perfectionist is difficult in that sense of confronting the fact that you don't know it all and understanding that it's okay to ask even the simplest of questions. And being a perfectionist shouldn't hinder your growth. So if you're really a productive perfectionist, you should be growing and learning and doing and thriving. And if you're not doing that, I think it's time to think of yourself as an unproductive perfectionist and understand that you might need to do some of these things in order to be productive and in order to get to a point where you can thrive. Yeah, so that's one instance of my perfectionism being a downfall. Another, as I've stated before, is I've had many ideas throughout my life. I still have them. I may not share them because, I might get around to doing them. but, but I've had so many ideas, and like I said, I just became crippled by thinking of all of the work that needed to be done in order to get those ideas out there or start those projects, build those businesses, those brands. And I realized I have watched so many of my peers and so many people surpass me because they weren't caught up in the little tiny minuscule details that I get caught up in. They just started doing it and they just improved over time. Think about your life this way. You look at everything you've accomplished, and maybe somebody else has accomplished more than you have. But when you look at how and why they've accomplished more than you, it could just genuinely be that they were actually just doing it and trying it and not scared to fail. I think the fear of failure is what keeps the perfectionist in their unproductive and destructive mindset. The fear of failure and the fear of success they seem so completely opposite, but I think that fearing success, fearing failure, and fearing mediocrity are all pieces of perfectionism, because if I do something, I want to do it really well. But if I'm one of those very forward thinkers who's a perfectionist, I'll think, but what happens when this does succeed? Then I'm going to have to do 30 million other things. And how am I going to handle doing all of those things if I do something and I'm just okay at it? I don't want to just be okay at it. I'm scared to just be okay. I was never meant to be just okay. I was meant to be great. So that's the fear of mediocrity. Then there's the fear of failure. What if I do this and it just doesn't work, I don't even know if that's worse than mediocrity. If I'm out here thinking I need to be great, if I fail, then what? What will people think of me? How will I feel about myself? And all of these fears just keep you from doing the thing, whatever that thing is for you. All of those fears are keeping you from doing them. You know how they say comparison is the thief of joy? I personally feel like perfectionism is the thief of joy. It also makes you very isolated in terms of you wanting to be perfect or you wanting everything to be perfect. You may not like working with groups, or you may not like the way other people do things. So then you end up doing it your way. And now you've wasted two people's time, the person that did it the first time and your own. That, in hindsight, is the worst part of perfectionism. If I have ever in my life had to delegate something, which I have, and I've delegated it and then I get something back, or somebody's trying to help me with something and I just don't like the way it was done, or it doesn't match what I've done, so then I redo it, I might as well have just done it myself. And then that's not effective, because then I waste my time doing something I meant to delegate in the first place to save myself time. So I hope you're seeing perfectionism in that it can be unproductive and it can also be destructive, because then you're going to go back and start dwelling on, well, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. Or I should have just done this myself. Why do I even delegate things? That doesn't make any sense. So, perfectionism is this form of cyclical thinking that just doesn't help you if you're on a mission to build something, or if you're on a mission to do something, maybe be a trailblazer. You can still keep some of your perfectionist traits. That's great. I'm happy. I'm very happy with caring about small details that other people might not think about, especially when it comes to the quality of content I'm trying to put out. But I need to be smart in recognizing the problematic traits that don't serve me in doing this or anything else I'm doing in my life. This video might be a little long. I'm sorry. I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, let me know in the comments. If it wasn't, let me know in the comments. If you liked this video, of course, like it. If you're interested in more of this series and you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. I have many other learn from my mistakes coming up, particularly around always being late. That one is, I have some stories from being late, but thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know how you like this setup and the natural lighting. But in the meantime, I hope you stay well, stay safe, and have a great one. I'm out. Peace.